Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Victoria. Today, I am going to be giving you 13 witchy book recommendations for every type of book reading, girly, baddie peoples of the realm. Now, could this have been a video to do in October? Sure. But I was reading a lot of witch books in October, so I thought it was a perfect time to compile a list for you to check out if you are still in the witchy vibe that I feel like I am perpetually in. So I have pulled 13 books today that I think will cover our ranges of all types of readers, of all types of witchy girlies who are looking for a little something to read and have fun with. I do have 2 bonus books, but I felt like having 13 for a witch book list would be, a little apropos. So we're going to stick with these 13. And I do want to give a disclaimer here. Some of these books I personally have not read, but these are books that I have seen on the booktubes that all the girlies are talking about. So I wanted to include them with a brief synopsis, the star rating average on both Storygraph and Goodreads, and if I have also read the book, I will give you my actual opinion on the book. So let's go ahead and jump in to our first recommendation. The first book I'm going to recommend to you, if you are looking to cozy girl winter, hot girl summer booktube vibe, be on the train with everybody else kind of book, is The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Madana. Teaser of this book reads, a warm and uplifting novel about an isolated witch whose opportunity to embrace a quirky new family and a new love changes the course of her life. I have seen this put on so many lists and things that booktubers have read. So this currently has an average of 4.2 stars on Storygraph and 4.09 stars on Goodreads. And I do believe that this is going to be part of a series, so there will be more coming out of these books, if I am correct. I believe she is coming out with something in this vein. The next book is for some of our romance girlies who are looking for a little witchy vibe and who love a second chance romance. And this book has been on the booktubes and book talk and all over the place. I have not read it, and I don't think I will, because I don't feel like I technically fall into this category. But that is, of course, The XX by Erin Sterling. That's a pen name for Rachel Hawkins, but that's her pen name for this series. And our little blurb reads, 9 years ago, a broken-hearted witch decides, after one too many, to cast a hex on her ex-boyfriend that broke her heart. But X shows up to the town 9 years later. Her little harmless hex starts running amok. She has to work together with her ex to break the curse. This currently has a 3.52 star average on Storygraph and a 3.49 on Goodreads. Right, so let's move on to some cozy fantasy. This book has also been making its rounds on booktubes lately, and it is on my list of books that I would like to read. And it is touted as a book for fans of things like Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree and fans of the author TJ Klune. That book is The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst, and basically, as I said, this is touted as a cozy fantasy full of stolen spell books and unexpected friendships, sweet jams, and sweeter romance. So if you are a fan of the cozy fantasies that are a little slower, that involve food, and are having a good time, this may be the read for you. This currently has a 4.21 star rating on Storygraph and a 4.12 on Goodreads, and is on my personal TBR. Switching gears, I picked this book out for all of you lit fit girlies out there who maybe are wanting to dip their little toesies into the witchy genre, but aren't really feeling a cozy fantasy, a cozy romance, or anything of the like. And that, of course, is another fan fave, Wayward by Amelia Hart. I actually DNF'd this book, and not because I didn't like it, but because the audiobook expired and I didn't have a chance to finish it, and there was a long line for it. So I do want to continue this book. I was enjoying it. Even though I would say lit fic is not my genre, I was having a good time reading it, and I definitely do want to pick it up again. The little synopsis of this book reads, weaving together the stories of 3 extraordinary women across 5 centuries, Amelia Hart's Wayward is an enthralling novel of female resilience and the transformative power of the natural world. And funny enough, this has received a 4.07 star average rating on both Storygraph and Goodreads. The next book is, of course, The Honey Witch by Sydney J. Shields. I do believe this book has made its rounds on BookTube as well, and obviously is on my TBR. This one is touted as Bridgerton meets practical magic with a dash of The Secret Life of Bees thrown in for good fun. That is what the novel says. So if you were looking for a debut novel that has like a cute romance, but is also doing the magic things. I do believe it's also a queer romance. So if that is on, if that like tickles your little synapses and makes you want to pick it up, The Honey Witch might be the book for you. I will say though, this book has a 3.67 on Storygraph and a 3.62 on Goodreads, and I have seen mixed reviews on BookTube about this particular novel, so I am interested to see what I think about it. It is not like top on my list of witchy books to read, but I do think I intend on reading it because it could be up my alley. Who knows? Alright, let's actually get into books that I read and give it opinions on. So the next book I'm going to recommend is for girlies who love them, a Hades and Persephone retelling or something in that vein. The last witchy book that I finished here in the month of October, and ranted and raved about, and that is A Dark and Secret Magic by Wallace Kinney. So this book is, to me, a love letter to Halloween and all things cozy for us spooky girls here, but I did not initially get the Hades and Persephone's vibes, but I definitely think after seeing this blurb that literally reads, a warm, spellbinding tale about a witch and the secrets her coven has been keeping from her, with echoes of the classic Hades and Persephone stories in the tradition of practical magic and Witch of Wild Things. So it's very cozy. I will link the vlog down below where I talk ad nauseum about this book because I had such a good time reading it. It was like the perfect book for the season. So definitely if you are a Halloween girl, I think you would enjoy this because there's just a lot of elements revolving on and around Halloween. But also if you like a Hades and Persephone's romance, I think you will enjoy this book as well. And this currently has a 4.03 on both Storygraph and Goodreads, and I actually gave this book a 5 stars because I had such a great time reading it. For all the girlies who love themselves a modern British rom-com, who love them a quirky character who's kind of lost their way, and a dashing man who comes in with a little bit of bookish and nerdish vibes mixed in, Rewitched by Lucy Jane Wood may be the book for you. The synopsis of this, the little teaser of this book reads, Belladonna Blackthorn hasn't lost her magical spark, but she hasn't seen it in a while either. With found family, slow burn romance, and an uplifting message about self-love, this is the cozy autumnal read you've been waiting for. So, I will want to preface that I actually gave Rewitch 2 stars. For me, I felt like we took too long to get to the plot of the story, the meat and potatoes of the story. I didn't think the first half of the book really spoke to me, and then I thought we rushed the ending and kind of tied all the knots so quickly because we took so long to get to where these, mysteries were, and then everything kind of came together in the end. But I will say for everybody else, this has a 4.05 on Storygraph and a 3.98 on Goodreads. I do think that for me, there was some similarities between a dark and secret magic and Rewitched, along with like the themes of these books, but I thought that the character development and layout of the romance in A Dark and Secret Magic was better than Rewitched. But if you've read it, or you are interested in, you know, someone rediscovering themselves in a witchy way and a really fun, like, magical system overall, I say give it a shot. Switching gears a little bit, away from more of our cozy romance vibes, this is for all of our fantasy girlies who are looking for a series to dig their teeth into, and maybe you've already picked this up and are thinking, should I reread it? This is still an ongoing series, The Hollows by Kim Harrison, but I'm just going to talk about the first one, which I read recently, which was Dead Witch Walking. And the little summary of this is all the creatures of the night gather in the hollows of Cincinnati to hide, to prowl, to party, and to feed. Vampires rule the darkness in a predator-eat-predator world rife with dangers beyond imagining, and it's Rachel Morgan's job to keep that world civilized. A bounty hunter and a witch with serious sex appeal and an attitude, she'll bring them back alive, dead or undead. I feel like this doesn't quite give the vibes that at least the first book gives, but if you like an urban fantasy series and you're looking to dive deep and you want something with a heavy influence of witches and vampires and a cool magic system, I think checking out the Hollows series by Kim Harrison could be a good place for you. I gave this book 3 stars. I had a good time. This has a 3.76 star average on Storygraph and a 4.04 on Goodreads. And that's just for the first one, Dead Witch Walking by Kim Harrison. Next is another book I read last month, and this is a new release that I was very excited to read, and I actually picked up on NetGalley. I talked about it in one of my spooky Halloween vlogs. Definitely would recommend this for people who love a good found family story, love like a quirky characters, bed and breakfast type of story with a lot of little magical elements thrown in between, and that is House of Frank by Kay Sinclair. The little synopsis of this is a warm and hopeful story of a lonely witch consumed by grief who discovers a whimsical cast of characters in a magical arboretum and the healing power of found family. I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 4.75 stars. The reason I didn't give it 5 stars was because the narrative style, especially in the beginning, is a little difficult to get into. I do think it was intentional by the author to have this narrative style because this character is really dealing with a lot of grief, and they often are having kind of conversations with the person who passed in their head, and so I feel like the way the story is being told in the beginning is a little strange. So I do think that could be off-putting to some readers, but I feel like if you do really enjoy like a magical, cozy world, I would say this is a good one for you. Heavier than like a Legends and Lattes situation, but I do think you would enjoy this if you like something like Legends and Lattes as well. So I give this a 4.75. It currently has a 4.13 on Storygraphs and a 4.14 average on Goodreads. Ooh, our next book is for girlies who love them a little southern comfort, cozy town kind of vibe. If you like yourself a little romance with a Texas flair and witches involved, I definitely recommend this book. Described as practical magic meets the X-Hex in a steamy rom-com set in a small town of quirky characters. And this was another arc that I got off NetGalley, and I actually read it after it came out because I saw it, the adorable cover in Barnes & Noble, and was like, oh, I feel like I would like this book. And then I was like, wait a minute, I think I have this arc. And I, in fact, did have this arc, and that is Hot Hex Boyfriend by Carly Bloom. I had so much fun with this book. Like I said, it is in a small town in Hill Country, Texas. The mothers, the family of our main character in this book are women who don't have magical powers but believe that they're witches. And so they're very quirky, and they have like witch objects, like a witch shop in this Texas town. And a lot of chaos ensues when their neighbor passes away, and the hot nephew of said neighbor, definitely giving like East Coast guy comes to small town in Texas kind of vibes. And how he gets wrapped up in this family. It was a good time. It's silly. It's definitely like a very fast, fun read. So if you're looking for something that actually has some interesting magic built into it, but really has that cozy southern small town kind of vibes with quirky characters, I do recommend this one. It has a 3.77 on Storygraph and a 3.74 on Goodreads. Like I said, I give it 4 stars. I had a great time. It actually put me in the mood for witchy reads, so I give it a lot of props for that because I had a great time. Next book is for our horror girls, Slewfoot by Brom, but I definitely feel like even if you're not a huge horror fan, if you like historical fiction and you like Salem themes, you like that colonial witch vibes, and you enjoy stories like that, I do really think you would like Slewfoot by Brom. As I said, it's set in colonial New England. It's really a... I don't want to spoil anything, but it is such an interesting tale, and I honestly thought it really got to the heart of the type of persecution that was going on in this time period, and how women who were just, who just had agency and thoughts of their own and wanted to be their own person and have an influence on their lives were treated in these towns. I really connected with the story. I give it 5 stars. I know it's a lot of people love this book here on BookTube as well. It actually has a 4.26 star rating on both Storygraph and Goodreads. And like I said, it is put under horror. Brom does put things under horror, and it definitely has horror elements. But I do think if you enjoy reading about this time period and you want to kind of take in some of the witchy elements, but also see a bit of retribution in a book for all of those poor women who suffered because of witch trials during these time periods, I think you would be able to like this book. So check it out. The next series I'm going to recommend to you, I would say if you like Gilmore Girls with a bit more silliness and a bit more Britishness, then you might like this series. And this series is also available on Kindle Unlimited, and that is the Myrtlewood Mysteries by Irish Beaglehole. I only read the first one, which was Accidental Magic. I looked it up. Currently there are 9 books in the series, including 1 prequel to the first book, Accidental Magic. And it reads as such: welcome to Myrtlewood, a quirky town steeped in magic, tea, and mystery. Life's a struggle for Rosemary Thorne and her teen daughter, Athena, but their regular troubles are turned upside down after Granny Thorne's mysterious death. Despite her cousin's sinister maneuverings, Rosemary returns to Myrtlewood and the sprawling, dilapidated Thorne Manor. But there's more to the old house than meets the eye. As Rosemary and Athena soon find out, in a whirlwind of magic, adventure, mystical creatures, and endless cups of tea, life in Myrtlewood would be bliss if Rosemary could only clear her name in a certain murder investigation, solve the mystery, and stay out of mortal peril. For at least a little while. A small town with endless secrets, strange activities, and a house with a mind of its own. If you love mystery, witches, magic, and a big dose of humor, you're going to love Accidental Magic. So this is a weird one, as I said, because I actually gave this book 2.5 stars. The mother and daughter in this book are quite annoying, and they're definitely hard to root for in a lot of ways. but the town and the characters in the town are so fun. It's the reason I gave it 2.5 stars, period. If I had kept Kindle Unlimited, I would have continued in the series because I was curious about a lot of different characters in here, and I wanted to learn more about this town. The town is its own character, and it is one of the best characters in this book. So if you're looking for a quick read and you have KU, I don't see why you shouldn't pick this up. And you may like it more than me, because like I said, it does give me a bit of British Gilmore Girl vibes plus witches. Take that with what you will, and let me know what you think. Okay, we are rounding down here. We're to our last two recommendations. The next one I'm going to recommend is for my cozy mystery girlies who love themselves a little Airbnb, or a little Airbnb, a little bed and breakfast vibe. And what is so sad about this, before I even tell you this book, is that I liked the first book in the series, but I loved the second book in the series. And then I found the author on Instagram and found out that unfortunately they're not going to be continuing this series. They are going to write other books, but I definitely think you can still read these two books and thoroughly enjoy them. And that is In the Company of Witches, which is the first book in the Evanfall Witches B&B series by Ora Lee Wallace. Oh, when a guest dies in the B&B she helps her aunt run, a young witch must rely on some good old-fashioned investigating to clear her aunt's name in this magical and charming new cozy mystery. And I will say that this book does have a lovely family. So they mentioned the aunts that our main character runs the bed and breakfast with. She also has an uncle who lives upstairs in the attic. And there are, of course, quirky neighbor characters in here, and then our lovely little witch actually has an affinity for speaking with ghosts, and that is kind of the setup of the series when it comes to solving these murder mysteries. And like I said, I was so disappointed because I gave the first book like a 3.75 stars, but I'm pretty sure I gave the second book 5 or maybe 4.5. I really enjoyed the second book, especially how it ended. And I could see where the series was gonna go. So I'm so disappointed. Hello. So, Editing Victoria here because I actually was just looking on, I was actually just looking on Ora Lee Wallace's page, and last week she posted, literally last week, like a week from today, she posted that the series is not going to be ending. We don't have like any updates on when the next book will be, but it's not over. So if this series did sound interesting to you, I wanted to bring that news to you here and now. So if you want to read In a Company of Witches, and then When the Crow's Away, I think is the second book, I would recommend them. Super excited to hear this news. So yeah, so forget what I said. It is not over. Check it out. I do still recommend for any of you who are a fan of cute, cozy mysteries to check out this series. I think you will really enjoy it. It also has a lot to say about grief and moving on with your life and learning to live when somebody who was a big part of your life passes away. So I highly recommend checking it out. As I said, I gave the first book 3.75 stars, and it has an average of 3.9 on both Storygraph and Goodreads. The last book on our list of recommendations of which books for every type of reader is going to be a book for our manga fans. And with that, I'm going to recommend you check out Witch Hat Atelier by Kamome Shirahama with Stephen Kohler as the translator. This currently has 13 translated volumes, and I did see on Storygraph that there's possibly a 14th volume that hasn't been translated yet. I have personally read 4 volumes out of this series and gave them around an average between 3.75 to 4 stars. They're very cute. It is a bit of a cozy mystery fantasy kind of vibe. We have a girl named Coco who has a dream of being a witch, but she thinks that you can only be born a witch, but she finds out that magicians are actually made and not born, and this is a secret that has been kept from the people for a long time because of some things that had happened in the past. And when she accidentally turns her mother into stone. She ends up going with Queefy, who is this traveling magician, and says he's going to teach her how to be a witch so she can figure out how to change her mother back from being a stone. And that's kind of where the story progressed. She goes to live in the house with Queefy and his other apprentices, and we start meeting this cast of characters in this magical world, and there is some nefarious things going on with these like shadow witch group that kind of set these things in motion with Coco. So this series currently, the first book has a 4.4 average on Storygraph, and it has a 4.42 on Goodreads. As a bonus, I am currently reading a witchy book, and that is The Cottage Around the Corner by D.L. Soria. Mainly the reason I didn't include this in here is because I am currently reading it, and so it's like kind of a weird in-between to give you a recommendation before I finish the book, and it also doesn't come with a 13, but you know. This little synopsis says, a feisty witch and a handsome mage must put their heated business rivalry aside to save their small town from supernatural forces in this charming contemporary fantasy rom-com from the author of Thief, Liar, Lady. And I will say, it definitely gives rom-com vibes. They also throw in You've Got Mail, and now I kind of see the comparisons, but like they're making commentary on the movie while like using some of the structure of the movie in as it's influenced in the book, as it like influenced the plot of the book. But I will say too, if you like rom-coms, but an updated rom-com where we have a lot of queer characters, where we have two different systems of magic and some weird things going on in this town, some like really funny, strange things going on in this town, I think you'll enjoy this book. I'm having a really good time with it right now. It has a 3.85 rating on Storygraph and a 3.73 on Goodreads. Okay, so one final book that I am going to mention as we are moving into the holiday seasons, and if you are like me and don't want the witchy vibes to end just because Halloween has come and gone for this year, I thought I would recommend a witchy kind of Christmas book that I am planning to read here in the month of December. I actually placed the hold on the audiobook for it, and that is The Wedding Witch by an author that we talked about earlier, that is Erin Sterling. So this reads, the New York Times bestselling author of The X-Hex and the Kiss Curse brightens up the winter solstice with another delightfully spooky novel following Bowen Penhallow and the girl he feels strangely drawn to, especially when she becomes his only hope of salvation after a strong spell sends them to a Yuletide celebration more than 50 years in the past. Bowen Penhallow has always been a loner studying dark magic and ancient magic on the mountaintop in Wales. He prefers it that way, but when his friend Colin, who happens to be a ghost, asks him to attend a Yuletide wedding at a grand estate deep in the Welsh countryside, Bowen reluctantly agrees. Tamsin Bly is not a witch, but she makes her living off of them. As a procurer and seller of magical items, Tamsin's business is not always above board, but she's been trying to fix that. Mostly. Bowen is an occasional customer, as well as a star of several of Tamsin's dirtiest dreams, but she's been around enough witches to know that as a human, getting involved with one is not the smartest idea. She finagled an invite to a witchy wedding of the century in hopes of finally making a score big enough to retire. Just one priceless magical artifact from Twill House would set her up for life. But Tamsin isn't the only one sneaking about in Twill House, and the mix of very strong spell combined with the wedding mishap transports Bowen and Tamsin into Twill's house past to the Yuletide celebration of 1958. As Bowen and Tamsin work together to get back to the present, they must also face off with the origins of Twill's house haunting, the suspicions of their fellow witches, and the fact that somewhere between the mistletoe and the bonfire, they might be falling in love. Yeah, so I'm thinking of reading this one for the winter solstice, because I feel like we can celebrate the solstice before we celebrate other holidays in that time period. So perhaps, as I have made this witchy list, if you're interested, we could do a little December buddy read of The Wedding Witch. So if you're interested, drop that down below in the comments section. Those are the 13 witchy books that I recommend to all type people who are looking to find a witchy novel and maybe haven't stepped their toes into it before, or just looking for some more options because you just aren't ready for the Halloween vibes to end. But I hope you enjoyed this video. It's really the first one of its kind that I've done on my channel because I haven't really felt like I've had many themes to videos to recommend. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, feel free to subscribe for some more Bookish and Knitters content. I upload every Wednesdays and most times on Sundays. And until next time, I hope you read a good book. I hope you find some joy. And most importantly, I hope you do something to make the world a better place. And I will see you in my next one. Bye!